Hello and welcome to the LFC transfer room. My name's Tino. Today is the Ajax Liverpool match preview. A lot of interesting topics to discuss within that specifically, and I'm delighted to be joined by Richie, Alex, and Kev. Richie, how's it going, man? Are you looking forward to the football finally after the postponement at the weekend?
I think looking forward to it might be a stretch considering how we last played against Napoli. No, I mean, listen, it looks like the Chelsea game is also postponed as well. So this is, I think, the Reds' last game in September, if I'm not mistaken. So it'll be nice to hear Anfield, hopefully a rapturous Anfield as soon as that ball's kicked. And, it's a very much needed win, if I'm honest. Ajax are a very good team. Even though they've lost Ten Hag and Anthony, they're still a good team. And I do think that they're a team that could cause us problems at the moment. So looking forward to it. I'll have everything crossed. And hopefully, we can go into the international break with a win and a much needed one in the Champions League as well.
Yeah, we certainly do need a win. Chelsea game being postponed. And as you say, the last game in September because of the international break. So yeah, it's hopefully we'll get off to a good start, Alex. You'd hope after the last week's goddamn awful performance that we'd actually respond and actually turn up and start a game well for once, you'd think.
Yeah, absolutely. And Richie, I feel a lot of the same feelings as you. I'm definitely excited that football is back, but it's still a little bit of a worry for us, especially going up against such a good team like Ajax. But yeah, we've been waiting for this bounce back to happen. We've been waiting for a response from the Reds to really kick the car in gear. And I'm hoping that we can do that before international break comes and then kind of figure out where we go from there.
Yeah, it feels like the international break has sort of come at an okay time with the injuries we've got. Kev, do you look at this, the postponement of the games, and the international break coming up? Are you actually glad that we've got a break? It feels weird to say that I'm actually glad that Liverpool aren't playing.
The way we're playing at the moment, we needed that break. My worry now is how we're going to fit these two games into an already compact season, and with the World Cup in the middle of it all. Now, that's my only worry. I'm relieved in a way that we didn't have a game after Napoli, because I think we needed the time to reflect, the time for everyone to sit down and have time to work out as to what went wrong. And we kind of got that from the conference today, that Klopp kind of mentioned that there was a bit of honesty and he didn't have to speak that much, which is quite nice to hear. But my worry is where we're going to fit these in now and how we're going to fit them in and manage that. That may come to our advantage in January, because I think when we have a game build up like we had done last season, we kind of went through it. But I think we're very tentative now with this because the frailty of the team at the minute. So it's a bit up in the air for me. But I'm relieved that we've had a break, frustrated at the same time, if you can be, but it needed it, because I think we needed to sit down and sort it out, I thought. But
yeah, it feels like it's come at the right time. Before we move on, as always, Jen, huge thank you for all of the contributions you make to the channel. We really do appreciate it. Always in here, always supporting everybody from the LFC transfer room. Really appreciate the support, both monetarily and of course in the chat constantly. So thank you again from the bottom of our hearts for that donation. We really do appreciate it. It is nice to see a couple of the regulars in already. Nice to see you all in. Of course, make sure you drop a like on the stream if you're enjoying it so far, and subscribe down below so you don't miss any of the content we've got coming up for you over the next few weeks to months throughout the season. There's plenty of content coming up including match day watch alongs, which are very, very popular. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss when we go live. That being said, Richie, Kev mentioned a couple of things that I do want to hit on. The first one was, it was a goddamn awful performance. It was possibly the worst performance we've had under Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen admitted that himself. Do you have any worries going into tomorrow night's game that we might not perform again to the level everybody used to expect Liverpool to perform to? Do you worry that if we don't turn up, this could be our Champions League run drastically on the downhill? Are you concerned about that?
If we don't win tomorrow, I think there's a massive potential there because, Rangers away, that's going to be difficult in itself. That atmosphere is going to be electric. And obviously, then we've got to go to Ajax, because we are at home tomorrow. So then we have to go to Ajax and make sure that we get a result there. Napoli at home is never going to be easy. So it's a tough group. And when it was drawn and everyone said Liverpool has an easy group, I actually thought it was a very tough group. Napoli have always been our bogey team. We don't travel very well to Italy at all. We got completely exposed. It was a woeful performance, absolutely dreadful performance. I think there's no sugarcoating it. Ajax are a very good team. And, if Liverpool are not at, I would say 80%, then they will lose. Ajax, I don't know if you've seen their form this season, but since August, they've won 3-2. Now, then get this, 6-1, 1-0, 2-0, 4-0, 4-0, 5-0. That's a crazy run of, wins. And I know it might be the Eredivisie, but they're not conceding goals. They're putting good numbers up, good goals up. So if we're not at the races, then Ajax will punish us, much exactly like what Napoli did as well. So yes, I think it's a concern if we don't win tomorrow. I think the only good thing is, and I'm sure we'll touch on this as well, is that it does look like Thiago and Jota, Curtis Jones will be back in. We saw a couple of them, obviously, in the Napoli game, and Thiago made a difference. Whether or not Napoli just put their foot off the gas, but Thiago did make a difference. Jota is a bigger goal threat at the moment than, or always has been, I suppose, than Firmino. So he can offer something else coming off the bench. But as I say, tomorrow's going to be... It's going to be brutal if we don't win. We'll be asking a lot of ourselves to get in the top two if we don't win. We'd essentially have to win, I would say, the next, the rest of the remaining games, which would be four games left after that, which is a big ask considering, like I say, Rangers twice away and Ajax home to Napoli.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult team to face, especially how well they're doing recently. As you mentioned about the form recently, 7 wins consecutively, scored 25, conceded 3. Comparing that to Liverpool's start to the season, 2 wins in 7 in all competitions is truly atrocious. Alex, going into this game, you look at Liverpool's form. There are a few danger men for Ajax. Bergwijn and Tadic are really the key ones for me. Is there anybody that stands out in that Ajax side that you look at and think could cause Liverpool real problems?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think both of their wingers are going to cause problems for us. I'm absolutely terrified that it's going to be another 3-1, 4-1 loss for us, just based off of our performance over the past couple months. Before we get into that, we've only lost our first home match in the previous 2 of 46 European campaigns. So, statistically speaking, we're usually pretty settled at Anfield and we're going to be okay. But I think especially if someone like Milner starts in the midfield, that, we've talked about it a lot. But I think it's going to allow for guys like Steven Bergwijn and Dusan Tadic to just have control of that midfield and then push up, or I should say have control of the edges and push up and probably score a lot of goals, because we're seeing it. Ajax is scoring so many goals lately. Their form has been impeccable, and the way that we're playing, I think Bergwijn's going to have a really good day if they end up doing well. So yes, he's the main one that scares me. But I know that he had a little knock, so hopefully he's not fully fit back from that. yet.
Yeah. Ajax aren't the only ones who have got danger men, though. We've got some very bright forwards. We've got a couple of players, as Richie's mentioned, Kev, on the way back from injury. Thiago got some minutes under his belt. Diogo Jota recently. Joe Matip. Fabio Carvalho might be back as well. Having all of those bodies back, especially given what was an awful performance against Napoli, you'd expect a fair few changes heading into this game.
Absolutely. I think the last 27 minutes of the game is the reason why Thiago should be starting. That gives us the tempo, gives us the momentum, and sorts out how we play constructively. We seem to have forgotten how to play as a team when he's been out. And we now look like a team that when he came on, we then started dominating the team. We started dominating the game and actually looked, if you were to come in at that time, you didn't know which team was which, you'd probably deem that Liverpool were the most dominant team on the day. That's how important he is. Now, I would be starting Thiago. I'd be starting Matty alongside Van Dijk. And then you then get into the realms of who's going to start in that midfield, which I think is a big worry for me going into tomorrow. Where do we look? Do we go with Fabinho, Elliott, and a Milner? I can't see a reason for Milner to be starting, but I don't know who else would come in and actually play there at this present moment in time. It's hard for me. Starting up front, I'd go with Diaz. He's probably been our best player at the minute in the last couple of games. Look, the only one against Napoli who was actually bothered, if I say it, along with a few others. But again, I'd obviously start Salah, and then I'd probably start Jota as well. We need a bit of fluidity. Starting Nunes, I think you need to go into a 4-2-3-1. I think I'd be tempted to start Arthur as well.
Wow, a lot of changes potentially. A lot of changes potentially. Just a lot of changes. Change the whole starting 11. Just bench everybody. Start the under-21s, and we'll win the league. The one thing that you did mention is Darwin Núñez hasn't really kicked off as well as we'd have hoped. The only player, or maybe at a push, you could mention Harvey Elliott, but the only player for me who stood out more than anybody else is Luis Diaz since the start of the season. Richie, has anybody else stood out for you so far this season? Do you look at, is there anybody else in the side who's played who stood out so much they deserve their name in that first, guaranteed first 11 every single week?
No, I think the only two for me, apart from Alisson, I think Alisson goes unnoticed, but he's made some tremendous saves, and there are games that could have been a lot worse if it wasn't for Ali between the sticks. And because we lose, we forget actually how much Alisson does and how many saves he makes and what a contribution and just what a world-class goalkeeper he is. But when you're losing games, you know, you don't necessarily look at that, but it could have been far worse. And even drawing games, it could have been far worse if it wasn't for Alisson. So no, not really. I mean, it was Palace, right? The penalty against Palace, obviously, you know, would have been 2-0. So, yeah, it's it was Napoli as well. Napoli obviously saved the penalty. Sorry, Napoli. So yeah, it would have been a lot worse for Ali. So no, Ali, Elliott, and Diaz for me. Diaz has been sensational. He looks hungry. He looks like he doesn't want to stop running. And apart from that, I think that's probably it. And I think that's a little bit harsh on perhaps, you know, some of the players because. Well, actually, no, it's not really. I think Tsimikas has done well when he's come on. I was going to try and make a case for Robertson, but you know, Tsimikas has looked okay since he's come on. But again, he's not at that level where I don't think he can deliver 90 minutes consistently. You know, game after game after game, like we've seen Robbo and Trent do in the past. So no, not really. I would say those three are the standout players. If the Carvalho injury wasn't so unfortunate timing, then I think Carvalho actually, every time he came on as those cameo appearances, you know, whether he's scoring goals or creating goals, I think he's done well to merit, you know, his side, his you know, bit of the team. But we're talking about 19 and 20-year-olds in Carvalho and Elliott, you know, who are carrying Liverpool's midfield. And that's the harsh reality of where we are right now, which isn't ideal, you know. So as soon as Thiago could come back, I think that's going to make a massive difference. I really do look forward to Thiago coming back because he offers more security for Fabinho, who's been a bit poor, let's be honest. And it does allow Elliott to roam because Thiago isn't really going to, you know, go too far out of that, let's say, in between the second, third. So no, I would say they're the three key players, really. I don't know what's happened to Mo Salah. I don't know whether it's because Klopp's asking him to get chalk on his boots every game. He's playing so wide. He can't cut in and create that, you know, create those moments of genius that we know he can. I think, again, that is perhaps down to Klopp and maybe tweaking things tactically. I'm really excited to see Nunez still. I really don't want to be thinking we can't cater for Darwin Nunez. So I'm hoping that, you know, you said he's not kicked off yet. He did kick off. He kicked off against Joachim Andersen, and look where that landed him. So hopefully he kicks on and cuts that behaviour out. But no, those three for me.
Yeah. Couple of questions in the chat that I've noticed that I thought, given that we'll get a quick answer to. So Jen mentions, when is Konate back? The last update we had on Konate, he had a knee injury. Jurgen expected him to be back in and around the international break, which to me would indicate that come Brighton on October the 1st, he'd at the very least be in the squad. But again, it depends on fitness, because match fitness, we've said a lot, match fitness and actually playing games and being free from injury are two vastly different things. So we'd expect him around the end of the international break. And the other comment that I saw, which is, why are we not playing Ramsey? He was hyped up so much. Play him over Trent. He's currently injured is the issue we have. As far as I'm aware from what I've read, we've had no return date on him. He's been out since the 4th of July, which is pretty much instantly after he signed. Didn't really get much of a pre-season as a result of that. Jurgen described it as something to do with his age and growing. He's getting closer and closer, and he's expected to join full training by the end of September, but there's no set specific date with regards to that. Alex, we'll move on slightly. Richie mentions about Thiago being back. How much confidence does that bring you as a fan going into the game tomorrow, a game in which we really, really need a result?
Oh, it brings all the confidence in the world to me. I truly believe that he is a fantastic midfielder and has the potential, and we've seen it multiple times, to just completely change the game. His vision is phenomenal. His composure and confidence, I think it's very similar to like a Van Dijk early Joe Gomez relationship, where, you know, Van Dijk is able to help Joe, you know, young Joe Gomez, and then similarly Thiago is able to help like a young Harvey Elliott and stay confident and just kind of take a little bit of pressure off him, because you know you have Thiago there. He's such a good player. We've seen the numbers from when he is in the squad versus when he's not. And for Liverpool, I truly believe that it is the most important thing for him to be back in the midfield and to just control and command the game.
Yeah, him starting in midfield is a huge plus for Liverpool. Liverpool Anfield Legendary mentions that we'll run with this now. Thiago is back. Kev, Thiago is such a phenomenal player. He's so important in his time at Bayern Munich, so vital now in his time at Liverpool. Do you, going into this game, what would you expect from Thiago in terms of minutes? And do you think we rely on Thiago too much now that he's signed into the squad? Do you think we need to transition into something else tactically to try and reduce the amount we rely on him, given his injury and fitness issues?
It's a shame, really, that we haven't got Thiago at Bayern Munich. of 4 years ago, because I think we would be seeing the benefits of it even more. I think the problem we've got is that we rely heavily on him, and we haven't got. And when he doesn't play, the upgrade off the bench isn't up to the anywhere near the standard. So we lose a lot when Thiago doesn't play. For me, it's we do need to change it up. But what do we change it up to? Do we then revert to a formation change and go from what has been a very good 4-3-3 and go to, I don't know, maybe a 4-2-3-1 that's been mentioned a few times? Do we go 3 at the back, is what James said over the week last week? There's things that we can do to prevent us and dealing with the loss of Thiago. But when you've got Thiago in your team and you've watched him play, and it's a pleasure, I have to say, every week I'm at that ground. I'm watching him play. I've watched games where I just solely watch him. I don't even know how he knows where the ball's going, because I look at it and I can't see that pass he's about to play. It is absolutely 60 chess I actually watch when he's on that pitch. And I would hope we can get between 60 and 80 minutes out of him, by which time I hope we put the game to bed. But that's a very, very big if for me. It's a shame that he is made out of a quaver, because otherwise we would have one of the best midfielders in our midfield by a mile.
Sorry, that really made me laugh. Oh man, made out of a quaver. I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, well, I don't love it because he's always injured, but I love it. Richie, you look at Thiago. Me and you have talked a lot about should we use him as a luxury player, and it feels like we have this conversation every single week. Every single time Thiago plays, he picks up some sort of issue and some sort of problem, and it feels like we're having this conversation every single stream. And it's like, oh, we need to use him as a luxury player, but we really can't afford to now, can we?
No, and we bought Thiago, knowing his age, 30 years old now, 31, and we knew his injury history as well. He is a player that is well worth taking a punt on, because if you can get him playing half of the games, you're going to win half of those games. He's that sort of player. I don't necessarily think it's fair that we have to pin all of our hopes on Thiago, because I think recruitment should have been better, especially in the midfield department, not just this summer. I think it was glaringly obvious this summer, but really we should have, it shouldn't have been an issue. He should have recruited over the past few summers. And it's disappointing that we didn't do so. But, Thiago he's a Rolls Royce player. He's an absolute luxury to have. He was never going to be a Gini Wijnaldum for availability. And he was always going to be a player who could come in and do something special, because that's who he is. Now, it's unfair for us to keep on having to rely on him. And when people say, oh, he's out again, Liverpool knew that. Liverpool knew that they're not going to get a 38 league game season from a Thiago Alcantara. Like, they knew that. So it's always going to be about managing his minutes. And we've said the same throughout, the seasons with Joel Matip. Joel Matip is the same, and Naby Keita is the same. It's all about managing those minutes. But when there's no other bodies and Thiago sat on the bench, you're not going to not play him, because we need to have him on the pitch as soon as possible. But again, if he's not healing properly from one game to the next, or he's playing too many minutes in one game, these things are always going to happen. Again, you can look wherever which way you want, but I don't think the sole blame lies on Thiago, because Liverpool knew what they was getting into. They can't, I don't think he's ever gone a season in his professional career without picking up an injury or two. So Liverpool knew what they was going to get themselves in for, and his minutes should have been managed. But again, it's difficult when there's no other bodies to manage those minutes with. It's not as if even Klopp has asked him to play that high press. He's not the person who the Gini or the Adam Lallana is, that first trigger. He isn't that either. So it's not even as if we're asking him to run over excess of what he's used to running. This is just who Thiago is. Some people's bodies are like that. So he is an absolute Rolls Royce player. I absolutely adore him. I wish that we had him for his whole career. He's one of a kind. He's that sort of generational player. And I still love seeing him in Liverpool shirt. I really do. I think he just brings calmness. I think he brings creativity, and I think he brings intelligence. And also, he definitely brings the yellow card with him as well, with an ill-timed tackle, which sometimes is not ill-timed, because I don't think we do that enough as a Liverpool side. And I've said it, for many years under Jurgen Klopp, we are too nice of a football team. Darwin Núñez aside, but seeing things like that, yes, it's annoying, the headbutt. But I'm like, thank God, someone's actually got a bit of. I don't want to use the term bite because we all get flashbacks, but it's nice to have that little bit of niggle that Thiago brings. That Fernandinho-esque Sergio Busquets, Sergio Ramos, that type of player who actually, he can see there's a break on. So you know what? I'm just going to snipe him down and I'll take a yellow card. Milner sometimes does it. Fabi sometimes does it. But as a team, we don't do it enough. So I don't mind that from Thiago at all.
Yeah. You talk about Thiago being a generational talent, and that is absolutely true. We, like I say, I think every Liverpool fan in the history of Liverpool fans is in agreement that if we'd have had him even 2 or 3 years before we signed him, we'd have been winning league title after league title after league title. He's a truly, truly phenomenal player. But speaking of generational talents, Alex, gone from one who has had an unbelievable Liverpool career so far, just struggles with injuries, to another in Trent Alexander-Arnold, who has had an unbelievable Liverpool career so far, but this season it just doesn't seem to be happening for him. Really, there's a comment from Anissa which mentions Salah and Trent have to be dropped. We'll move on to Salah in a second, but do you agree with that sentiment? He has had a tough start to the season, but is there anybody else we could play, barring Joe Gomez, given we sold Neco Williams?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Right? Like, if we take Trent out, who do we even put there other than Joe Gomez or even James Milner, which both of them have not been playing very well lately. I understand all the criticism of Trent, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's been so good for us over the years that we've had him, like you just mentioned. So there's a part of me that almost just wants to relax and he'll come around. I think he definitely has issues on the defensive side of the ball. We've been saying that for years, but this year it looks worse than ever. I would love to drop him and give someone like Calvin Ramsey a chance, but obviously, he's not fully fit and we don't really know what the extent of that injury. I just don't see anybody moving into that spot that would do better, even when Trent's not at his best. So I find it hard to replace him, especially in such a game that is a necessary win for us.
Yeah, it certainly is. It certainly is tough to bring in someone like Joe Gomez, albeit barring the Napoli game so far this season, he didn't do too badly at centre-back. It's not his natural position, is it, Kev? Joe Gomez coming in at right-back, the drop-off is so big offensively and going forward. And the amount we play through our fullbacks and how creative they are, not having someone even to half the standard of Trent going forward really, really does drastically change how we play and impact us massively.
It does. He's the only right back in the world that has a free role and is allowed to roam around midfield. The problem with Trent is I don't think he's been getting the coverage that he's required to have, like he had last season. And again, last season he had it. I think the problem we've got is, and it was evident against Palace, we were making half-hearted attempts at tackling. Eze comes out, and then he plays the pass through to Zaha, and they're in on our back four. We're not getting that kind of. When you play a Trent, you need to have the coverage for him to play, so that he's allowed to roam and he's allowed to do what he's been asked to do within the actual team. He has. I think everyone has a specific role to do. I think his role is not specifically get back and defend. He defends when he's there, but in times when people are counter-attacking, it's heavily reliant on a Henderson to be on that side. We've seen it with Elliott. I don't think Elliott is defensively all that good, so that makes half the issue that you've got on that right-hand side. Predominantly, our issues at the minute are all on that right-hand side. Salah out of form, although he is creating. You've got Elliott, who is got glimpses of he can play in that position, but defensively needs to tighten up a little bit more. And you've got Trent that's out of form, and that's basically all the right-hand side. Basically, you're giving up. Now, the problem is, who do you bring in at this time that can do it to the levels and provide us with it? The problem you got when Gomez plays there is that we automatically think of Trent because of the levels that we have at right back. It's like when Robbo's playing. I wish we had Timothé's crosses, Timothé's start. I wish Robbo's crossing was. I wish Robbo was there. There's no balance to when we bring players in. We've got an issue with our midfield. In fact, we're relying on an 18-year-old to try and dig us out, and he's done a decent job so far. There's a lot of, as I mentioned last Friday, there's a lot of, it's a complex issue that we've got. And half of the problem is on that right-hand side for me personally, and we need to address it. This is not a time to sub in the likes of Salah and Trent. It's about time we get our best starting 11 to start and then go back to the simpleness of, as Klopp said today, of remembering how to defend properly. And the problem we had against Napoli is that half our players stopped running. If you stop running, that then makes you a problem, and that's the issue we've had, and we've had it with Trent all season, unfortunately. But I'd still be playing him. It's our strongest 11 for me tomorrow, regardless of what the form is at the minute. I think we've all sat down. I think they've had a hard look at themselves, and that's why it's been beneficial with this little break that we've had, that they've been able to look at that game on so many times and sit down and go, right, yeah, I didn't do what I needed to. Okay, sound. And it's a wake-up call. Hopefully, it's as easy as that.
Hopefully, sir. Hopefully, sir. We certainly need to respond to to how poor some of the players have been performing recently, Richie. Are you in agreement with Kev there with regards to Trent? Do you think, even if we were to drop him and bring Joe Gomez in, Trent is still an unbelievable player, and you have to take that risk when it comes to his quality, because he can change a game on its head with the click of with one pass, really. Another player who I do want to discuss, who's again a fullback who potentially could have had a better start to the season, is Andrew Robertson, currently injured. This is a very double-loaded question, so I apologise. But Andrew Robertson being out, Kostas Tsimikas coming in, for me, the level and drop in quality isn't as big as the drop in quality on the right-hand side offensively. What are your thoughts on the whole fullback situation in general, especially looking ahead to tomorrow night's game?
Firstly, I would not be dropping Trent in favour of Joe Gomez. I think Joe Gomez had a pretty poor game against Napoli. I think he got caught out with Marcus Rashford as well a couple of times, especially for the goal, not getting up fast enough. I certainly wouldn't be playing him out of position when his confidence looks shot right now, if I'm honest. You know, you saw his performance against Napoli, far too many touches on the ball. That's not the composed Joe Gomez that we all know and love. So I certainly wouldn't be playing him out of position. The issue with the fullbacks is, again, as I alluded to earlier, you have Salah and Diaz who are as wide as can be. And that's my only thinking is to create space in the middle so the fullbacks aren't coming in and perhaps marking them, you know, Harvey Elliott from midfield as tightly, or perhaps a Darwin Núñez type player who is going to be the focal point in Liverpool's attack. That's why he was brought in. Diaz, Salah comes off him. The issue with the fullbacks is that because Salah and Diaz are so wide, our fullbacks were absolutely fantastic. And where they were best was when they were overlapping. But they can't overlap if Diaz and Salah are too wide. So they're having to underlap instead to get forwards. They've never, ever done that. Underlapping is quite good if you're going to cut inside on your most dominant foot. But if Trent's going to cut inside rather than staying out wide, he's going to be on his left foot. And we know Trent's weapon is his right foot, and the same for Robertson as well. So tactically, again, it feels like it needs that tweaking. And it feels like we need to say, okay, we're now not going to have our play so wide. So our fullbacks can overlap, because that's where they're dangerous. You look at Robertson, and I looked at him in the previous games, he wants to overlap because he's on his left foot. And as footballers, you're going to play with that. But he can't. So then he seems to cut inside, and already you're losing that power because he's on his wrong foot. You know, you lose that confidence straight away. For anyone who's ever played football, if I say, like, here's have a penalty, ping it with your wrong foot, automatically all your confidence drains, because it's not, it's not natural to you. And that's what it feels like with these fullbacks at the moment moving forwards. And again, that's why Trent hasn't posted the attacking numbers that he normally does. And the same with Robertson, really. Tsimikas, his 2 assists were from set pieces, from corners, so it feels disjointed, because that's really what the system looks like at the moment. It does look disjointed. Tsimikas is not a massive drop off, if I'm honest, from Robertson. Robertson was the best left back in the world a couple of years ago. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I think he struggled a little bit at times last season to find that form, and obviously this season, this injury is going to hamper him too. But again, for me, it just feels like there's a bit of a complication with the current system that we're playing, with our wide men being too wide, because then it doesn't allow our fullbacks, who are our creative weapon. Let's not forget, Klopp did not buy a Coutinho replacement because he wanted not one creative midfielder. He wanted 2 creative fullbacks, which at the time, absolutely perfect, because we had 2 creative players then, plus some from midfield dabbling in. But if you're taking away your fullback weapon, there is no creativity, and especially in the midfield that Liverpool can put out at the moment. So no to dropping Trent, yes to cutting in just a little bit more so that our wing backs can overlap, because they are wing backs. I know we say fullbacks, but they play as wing backs. Also, though, I know Kev mentioned earlier about Trent's defensive frailties. I mean, that was on display, I think, against Napoli as well. And you know what? It's not about the mistakes that are being made. It's the fact that these people are walking. Trent, Fabi, Gomez, they were walking as someone was bombing. Anguissa just bombed through them, just running through, and they were just, oh, who's tracking? Oh, was I supposed to be tracking him? That's the frustrating thing as Liverpool fans, that this work rate is not getting put in.
Yeah, that's a really key point to hit. It's the attitude, it's the desire, it's I can accept a few bad results and it's just the performance there. Alex, the performances so far this season have been lackluster, to put it mildly. The lack of desire, the lack of fight, and what seems just like laziness at this point by certain players, whether it's them being lazy or them being tired. It's certainly a frustrating thing to watch a game and see the players who last season got to Champions League final, won 2 domestic cups, and finished second in the league, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they seem like they can't be bothered. Yeah. Do you know? Can you understand why? Is it tiredness? Is it just the amount of games we played last season? Is everything just catching up to these players? Because the team on paper isn't too different.
Oh man, I almost feel like that's an impossible question to answer when looking at it all in all. I think when you play every single possible football game in a season that you can, it definitely takes a toll, and I would imagine that it has lingering effects down the road. And then you add injuries on top of that, and I think it's making Liverpool's players, I guess, play more than what they normally have to, per se, because well, we don't have anybody, right? We're all injured, and you play a 50-some game season. I don't know, to be honest with you. I know for a fact, though, that our lack of pressing is making it a lot more difficult on our back line, and it's something that has to be fixed. What the issue is, that's causing this, I'm not quite sure, but my best guess is just the fact that we played a full football season, and we've been just hit with injuries. So it's a lot more for our players to try and cover at the same time.
Yeah, it certainly is. It is certainly a lot more pressure, and I think Helio puts it quite well. There isn't a single player on the pitch that'll work in his position without the other players to cover for him. I think that really hits a key point, Kev, with regards to that. Are we in the position now where Fabinho looks very tired, Trent looks tired, Roberts looks absolutely shattered, Virgil van Dijk looks very poor so far this season? It's coming down to these players having played so much, and then as soon as one guy's off it, everybody else just slowly drops. Do you think it's time we maybe transition into tactically something different, drop the back line a bit? Jürgen talked about the back line not being an issue if you can press high with the midfield. We haven't got that midfield, so surely at this point we have to think, let's change it tactically. Let's drop the back line. Let's go to a 3 or 5 at the back, play proper wing backs, and play two in the midfield in Fabinho and Thiago. And then that solves our midfield problem. Surely you've got to try and transition and tactically change it if you haven't got the players on the pitch to do the job you're expecting them to do.
And this is what this has opened up for going into the Ajax game, in the fact that we've now had that conversation, and there will be people looking at this, and hopefully it's easy for us. I can sit here and go, do you know what, this is how we need to do. We just need to revert it to a 4-2-3-1. Let's just smash it, and everything will be fine. I remember the Community Shield. We played the Community Shield. We come in and we win 3-1 against City, and everyone's on a high. And then next minute, the next game, which was that friendly on the Sunday, we just fell off a cliff from then onwards, because we got the injury to Kanate in that. Then we got injuries with Curtis Jones. Then it started escalating, and we go into in the league, in our first league game, and we are looking very sensitive at times. We're not looking strong. Every game we are lackluster, and we are conceding because we're not on it from the first minute. We haven't been on it at all. It took us to go down to 10 men against Palace before we saw a reaction. It's as though these players need a reaction. The only time it hasn't worked was against Napoli, because I just think this team. I agree with Alex. It's hard to put your finger on one thing. It can't just be. I think there's a bit of hangover from last season. I think the short pre-season as well doesn't help. Then coming into this, we then get hit with a few major injuries to certain players. Then the confidence is starting to go already. We've got a player up front in Nunes who's unsure whether to press or how to press, or that's what it looks like. We then got 3 up front where they don't know what they're doing half the time. They look as though they're playing as individuals at times. Then you got a midfield and the issues we've got there. I don't see going to a 3 at the back. I can't see Klopp reverting to a 3 at the back. I think he likes the 4. It's then what you do with those 6 in front. I said on Friday I'd drop the defence back 5 yards, not 10. Give them a bit of space, but then I'd also make sure that those 6 that are in those remaining players can play in a way that means that is easy on the press. So there's hardly any press at all, and is a little bit more compact. And as Richie has alluded to many times, the wide wingers in Salah and Diaz to be playing a little bit more compact in the middle of the park, and then possibly on the edge of the 18-yard box on either side, and then allowing the space down the overlap for that to happen. That's what I would do. I don't know whether we're going to do that. I can see us continuing and Klopp being stubborn and saying we're going to stick with this 4-3-3, and you're not doing your jobs right, and you need to start doing it. That's the problem you've got when you don't press and one doesn't press. The gamble then is that we're not going to do nothing, and then that's when the problems start coming through. And you see it already. The ball over the top is an absolute nightmare. And these intelligent players that have actually come up with tactics in games couldn't see that against Napoli, and never decided at one point, let's take let's take a couple of steps back here. Let's give ourselves a bit of a chance. We've reluctantly and delusionally started playing like this, and it baffles me as to what the answer is going to be. I think it's very complex. It looks complex to me. I'm probably overlooking it. It'll keep me up all night trying to understand how to play this game, how to get those 4 or those 6 in front of the 4, how to play it without any kind of press at all until we get the confidence back. And the confidence is being a big key to us. I just think we're going into games thinking, I just hope we don't get an injury. I hope. Then add into, as soon as we get to World Cup stage, the mindset's already thinking, I don't want to get injured. And we're going to have a bit of that going on as well, as will other teams. So there's going to be it's the weirdest. This feels like the most toughest season you could ever have. And added in with injuries that we've had already, it's just a nightmare at the minute. Sorry, I feel so ranting now. Sorry.
Can I was just going to jump in as well, Kev, because you said, teams.
Yeah, go ahead.
Teams keep on doing this. Yeah, sorry. Teams keep on doing this. Alison Becker said after the Manchester United game, teams know how to play against us. And I've never heard that from a Liverpool player. He's not quite criticising Klopp's stubbornness, because you said, about that too. But he said teams, when they play against us, they know the way we play and they try to exploit us and they try to use that against us. And we know that. We've seen Liverpool struggle against low block teams for so long. Man United did it. Simple ball over the top. Marcus Rashford with his pace goes through, makes it 2-0. It just feels like, as a Liverpool fan, I'm not questioning you, Jurgen, but I am banging my head against the wall because we have seen it so many times that we'll just get hit on that break. And that high line, like you said, at some point, yes, it works. But if your midfield isn't pressing because they haven't got the legs, which they haven't this season,
exactly,
they have to drop back. They're going to have to drop back. Otherwise, they are going to get punished. It's, again, I'm not trying to say that I know more than Jurgen Klopp, but anybody can spot that.
Exactly.
And it's frustrating why we're not doing it. It's just frustrating.
It is, and the worst thing about it is, for me, and the frustrating thing is that we praise these players, and Jurgen has over time, for making tactical decisions in games. The Cardiff game with Ronaldo, I'm getting free in space. Now, if they can see that, surely to God, they can see that there's an issue with this high line, and we need to do something about it, because it was great at the start. That high line, we were dynamic with it, in the fact that we were using the VAR at that time to come in and save us at times. And we were using it as a benefit rather than a restriction. Now, it feels as though, as you said, Rich, and as we've all said, if you haven't got that press, and that press starts with the front 3, then the midfield coming in at the same time. If that's not working and we're getting exploited, and before anyone says that's not because of Pep's book, by the way, because if managers are alluding to a book to find out what Liverpool do, then they need to be sacked, in my view, because it's not down to that book. It's just coincidence that came out at the same time, and now we were getting it with this intensity all the time. But that's the common problem. My simple thing would do is finding a formation with 4 at the back and with those 6 from midfield and up front that can restrict the amount of pressing. Now, I was looking at this and I was thinking maybe a 4-4-2 and go with Salah and Nunes up front, with the likes of Diaz and Elliott on the wing, and then but then that leaves you with 2 in the middle, which would be Fabio and Thiago. Now, I think that could possibly work, or with the Nunes Jota up front and Salah on the wing, but play the wingers a little bit compact, so they're on the edge of the box and you got your 2 just in front of them, maybe one dropping deep, so you go with the Bobby in the 2. That is probably the only formation I'd probably look at that would release that kind of press at the minute, until we can get the fitness back to where. But I don't know what people think about that.
It's like
just got to be better than doing the same thing over and over. 4-3-3, 4-3-3. Press. Well, we can't press anymore because we've got no legs. Our midfield's all corrupt. It's all gone. It's all empty. Oh no, keep doing it, and keep playing that high line. But Joe Gomez can't play a high line because he's had so many injuries. His pace isn't what it used to be, so he can't recover anymore. No, keep doing it. Just go on, keep doing it. You'll be fine. It'll all work out. It doesn't work like that. You look at Sir Alex Ferguson, and the reason why, and it pains me to say, trust me, he is the best manager to ever set foot in the Premier League, is because he could do that. He could evolve his sides. He could play different ways. Jurgen Klopp was an absolute monster. That Liverpool side was a monster when he first arrived, but now they're aging. We are going to have to cater for the likes of Thiago, who can't press for 90 minutes, where we had Lallana and Wijnaldum who could. That is what Klopp has evolved this Liverpool team to be. It doesn't mean that we have to keep on playing the same way over and over again. You evolve that too. It's crazy. It's like saying, oh no, actually we are saying it. Let's put James Milner out every week because he can do it until he's 45. You know, there has to be a time where we have to evolve in life. You know, teams have done it throughout generations. Yes, there are transition periods, but at the same time, teams still, like Real Madrid, Barcelona, they still find success in those transition periods because they're smart enough to adapt to what they've got. You are not telling me that any other manager in the world would look at that Liverpool team and go, yeah, Jurgen's right. They can only play 4-3-3, gegenpress. It's not, you know. I mean, we as fans will say, oh, let's go 4-2-3-1, or as Kev said, 4-4-2, or let's just try something different. Instead of seeing the same thing over it, oh, there goes a ball over the top and it's another goal. You know, or there goes ball over the top and we just find ourselves like, please, Ali, please save it, or please get back Van Dijk and usher somebody out, because that's what it feels like we're doing. And that, I think, is the most frustrating thing for all of us. Sorry, Kev, there to jump in.
More than happy, mate. You talk more sense than I do, so it's fine.
Well, if you want more tactical analysis from Kev and Richie and Alex and myself, make sure you drop a sub on the channel. Make sure you drop a like on the video as well. And make sure you put those notification bells on so you know when we go live, so you can hear more top quality analysis and ripping the shit out of Jurgen Klopp for getting his tactics wrong. So if you want more of that, make sure you should subscribe as well. We've got plenty of content coming up for you over the next week or so, including the watch along tomorrow. Before we head out, there are a couple of things I've got on my list that I want to ask the guys in general. Firstly, it's lineup predictions, as we always do, and score predictions. I'll start with Alex. I'll throw him in at the deep end. Give Richie and Kev some time to think. So, Alex, what's your lineup? Bearing in mind, Robbo's injured. We've got Thiago back. You've got Matty back. What's your lineup? And then I'll go around with score predictions as well after. Sure.
As frustrating as it's going to be, I don't think we see anything different than a 4-3-3. I just don't see it happening right now. As much as I wish that we would. Obviously, Allison in net. We just discussed we can't take Trent out, so Trent starting on the right side. Joel Matip has to start next to Virgil van Dijk, in my opinion. There's no argument there. And then obviously Tsimikas on the left. I think it'll be a Fabinho, Thiago, Elliott midfield. Hopefully Thiago can, like Kev said, play a good 60 to 80 minutes, and then we maybe throw Arthur in there as the game goes along. I think the big question is the front three. Mo Salah hasn't scored in his last 7 Champions League games, which is obviously not a good stretch for him. But I think it'll be Salah, Nunez, and then Diaz on the left side for a 4-3-3.
Fair enough. I'll move on to Richie next. Of course, before we get into it, please drop your comments in the chat as to what you think the score and lineups will be. Richie, what lineup are you going for?
Oh, well, is this the one that I think he'll put out or the one that I want out? Because they are two different.
That's a very good question. Let's go both. Let's throw it out there and go both.
Okay, well, Ali obviously starts in both, as does Trent and Van Dijk and Tsimikas. I think he'll play Gomez. I would rather him play Matip. I would love for us to go and play 2 in the middle, but I think he's always going to play 3, as we said earlier. So maybe it's not even worth mentioning. But the 2 in the middle would have been Thiago and Fabinho. I still think he'll play those 2 and Harvey Elliott as well. And the 3 up front, like we said, it's quite interesting. I would like to see Núñez lead that line, if I'm honest. I would like to see him in the middle. I think he's had a period now where he's been out, hopefully getting stronger, getting used to the way in which we play. I would like to see him lead the line with Diaz and Salah either side of him. Again, I just don't know, really, if I'm honest. Like, it could be Jota and it could be Firmino. It depends literally on the day how everything pans out, if he's ready to start or not. If we went to that 4-2-3-1 though, I probably actually would have Harvey Elliott not play, and I probably would put Firmino just behind Núñez as that 10. I think that's perhaps what I would do, and have Núñez really far up on the last shoulder of that defender with Bobby doing bits in the centre. And then Harvey Elliott can come on in place of Salah after 60 minutes, because there's something not quite right there with Mo Salah at the moment, if I'm honest. But that, who knows? But that, my score prediction. Alex, did you give your score prediction?
I did not. I was waiting until we went around, but I can.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we'll wait. We'll go round. Kev, your turn.
Round again. Go for it, Kev. Line up prediction.
Same back 4 as Alex. Midfield, same as Alex. To be honest, I'd like us to go with the same kind of formation as we did against Everton for those couple of minutes before Milner came on, and go with the 4-2-3-1. I would love that to happen. I can't see it though, personally, and sadly. So the only option would be Fab, Thiago, and Elliott for me, and then up front, Diaz, Jota, Salah. You're on mute, Tino.
You're muted, mate.
I knew I'd do that at some point. For me, I'm going to take out a leaf out of Helios' book in the chat. For me, that is my ideal lineup. I think the back 4 with injuries picks itself, as we've already said. It's really that centre forward position. Do you go Firmino? Do you go Jota if he's up and running fully and ready for that? Or do you go Núñez? I'd love to go Núñez just because I think he needs a run of games. If you're going to change the way you play stylistically, if you're going to push the wingers out wide a bit more to try and allow for some space, then you have to play him consistently. You can't keep swapping and changing, because that's not going to get us anywhere. And the midfield, again, I think picks itself just with injuries and how well Elliott's played recently. Yes, defensively, he doesn't provide as much as Henderson with regards to covering Trent. But with injuries, I think that's the lineup you've got to go with. With regards to score predictions, I would like to be confident and say, like our friend here, 5-0. I'd love to be that confident, but I can't be, given the way we are playing recently. But I'm going to be somewhat positive, so I'd probably go 3-1. Richie, what do you see in terms of score predictions?
Was that being positive 3-1 Ajax? Because you don't think it'd be as bad as Napoli? Was that?
Yeah, of course. 3-1 Ajax.
3-1 Ajax. That was going to be my score prediction as well, 3-1 Ajax. I'll be... See, I'm going to be kind just because I'm on a stream, and I'll say 2-1 Liverpool, but my betting slip might say different.
Alex?
3-1 Liverpool. Mo Salah scores, Darwin Núñez scores, and we have the momentum that we need to go win moving forward. I think this will, shape us right up. Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Imagine if we have like an amazing game and then we have to wait until October to play again.
Yeah.
That'd be just typical. That'd be just typical. We batter them like Jen suggests 9-0, and then we have to wait until the 1st of October to play again. Kev, what's your prediction?
I'm going for something that I don't think is possible. I'm going for the 2-0 Liverpool win. I'm going to keep a clean sheet, which I can't see us doing, to be honest, with the form that Bewegan's in and Tadic and Kudus and, how many goals they've scored this season. So, no, I'm quite confident with the 2-0 win. A good performance. And then rest of the lads, recharge those asthmatic tubes that they've been using from last season. Make sure they're in good use and ready for the 1st of October.
Indeed. Of course, thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it. Make sure you drop a like on the video and stream if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe down below. We've got plenty of content coming up for you over the next few days. Even if Liverpool don't play, we've got an abundance of content for you. We've got the match day watch along, which I believe Louis is doing for the Ajax game tomorrow. So make sure you put the notification bells on the LFC Transfer and YouTube channel to make sure you know when we go live. Plenty of content, as we say, coming up for you. So make sure you, of course, follow the LFC Transfer Room on social media, and these guys as well on social media. Their links will be down in the description below. But for now, that's been us. This is the LFC Transfer Room match preview show for the Liverpool Ajax game, and we will catch you tomorrow.